In the chaos of armed conflict, when lives are on the line and combatants face extreme dangers, it might seem like all rules disappear. But even in the midst of battle, there are fundamental protections designed to uphold humanity. When combatants are wounded or sick and therefore no longer able to fight, they immediately gain special protections under international humanitarian law. They are considered hors de combat, which means out of the fight, and must be respected, protected, and treated humanely by the party in whose power they find themselves. This crucial principle is enshrined primarily in the First Geneva Convention, which specifically details the protection of wounded and sick members of armed forces in the field. The core idea is that once a fighter is no longer a threat, they lose their status as a legitimate military target and are instead seen as a vulnerable human being. This protection is absolute and applies without any adverse distinction based on nationality, allegiance, or any other criteria. It is a cornerstone of the principle of humanity in warfare. These rights include receiving the medical care necessitated by their condition without discrimination. Parties to the conflict are obliged to search for and collect the wounded and sick, to protect them against ill treatment, and to prevent them from being needlessly exposed to danger. Medical personnel, units, and transports dedicated to their care are also specially protected and must not be attacked. Practically, this means a wounded soldier cannot be deliberately targeted or killed after surrendering or being incapacitated. They must be collected, cared for, and their personal effects that are not military in nature must be safeguarded. Furthermore, their identity should be established, and information about them shared with the opposing side if captured, often through the International Committee of the Red Cross. An interesting insider detail is the significance of the distinctive emblems, the Red Cross, Red Crescent, or Red Crystal. These symbols are not merely identification marks, but are protective signs indicating that the wearer or facility is dedicated to humanitarian aid and must not be attacked. Misusing these emblems is a grave breach of international humanitarian law. These protections extend even to those who may have committed serious crimes, emphasizing that the right to medical care is universal in conflict. By guaranteeing these fundamental rights for wounded and sick combatants, international humanitarian law aims to limit the suffering caused by armed conflict and preserve a basic level of human dignity. It establishes a universal standard that transcends the animosities of war, fostering a framework where even adversaries acknowledge a shared humanity, thereby reducing the brutalizing effects of combat and laying groundwork for future peace.